A figure of $2.94 billion has moved through financial press, analyst dispatches, and industry reporting with enough repetition that it now reads as settled fact. The document we are reading today is that figure's paper trail, a reported memory procurement arrangement between a Hefei-based dynamic random access memory manufacturer and one of China's largest cloud operators, and what that trail, read carefully, actually contains. We will read it twice. The first time for what it establishes, the second time for what it conspicuously declines to establish, and that second reading is the one that matters. The number is real. The confirmation is not. The record establishes that the figure 2.94 billion exists, not as a company disclosure, but as a reported number that has achieved broad circulation. That circulation is itself a documented fact, and it is the first thing the paper trail plainly shows. Two parties are named: the Hefei-based dynamic random access memory producer that has emerged as the primary domestic Chinese alternative in the commodity memory segment, and the cloud infrastructure division of a major Chinese technology conglomerate that ranks among the largest data center memory consumers in the country. The record also establishes a direction of travel. Chinese hyperscalers have faced sustained pressure, some of it from supply chain disruptions in 2022 and 2023. Some of it from export restrictions that have progressively narrowed access to certain categories of foreign components to qualified domestic memory suppliers at scale. That context is not disputed. Independent teardown analyses and industry qualification reporting, which do exist and are on the record, support the claim that the manufacturer's process technology has advanced to a point where procurement conversations of this type are plausible. What the first reading produces, then, is a coherent commercial picture. A Chinese memory producer with demonstrated product, a Chinese cloud operator with documented procurement needs, a number that has been reported rather than confirmed, and a moment in the supply landscape that makes the arrangement logically coherent. Reading it again, the record does not contain a primary source for the 2.94 billion figure. It appears in press reporting. It does not appear in a regulatory filing, an earnings disclosure, a procurement announcement, or a statement attributed to a named representative of either company at that level of specificity. The number has the texture of confirmed fact and the sourcing architecture of a reported estimate. The memory manufacturer has not confirmed the arrangement. This is not an inference. It is what the record shows. The company's public communications do not reference the cloud operator as a customer, do not reference the figure, and do not reference the terms of any supply agreement at the scale being reported. The cloud operator has not confirmed the arrangement either. Its investor communications, earnings calls, and public procurement disclosures do not contain the figure. A 2.94 billion supply commitment, were it on the record, would constitute material information for a publicly listed company. The record does not show it has been disclosed as such. The record does not establish volume. A memory procurement arrangement is not described by its dollar value alone. It requires a chip specification, a volume in units or capacity, a delivery schedule, and a price per unit that would allow the total to be derived or verified. None of those components appear in the record at the granularity of the reported figure. The number exists without the arithmetic that would produce it. The record does not establish terms. It does not say whether the arrangement is a binding purchase order, a memorandum of understanding, a qualification agreement, a framework contract, or an informal supply commitment. Each of those instruments carries different legal weight, different accounting treatment, and different implications for what either party has actually committed to. The record does not establish a timeline. It does not say when deliveries begin, when the commitment was made, or over what period the 2.94 billion would be realized. A figure without a time horizon is not a procurement commitment. It is a projection, an estimate, or a target, and the record does not specify which. Now consider the precision of the number itself. 2.94 billion is precise to three significant figures. Precision of that kind, in a commercial context, typically derives from a specific quantity multiplied by a specific price. It is the output of arithmetic performed on real terms. But the record does not show the inputs. What the record shows is a number precise enough to suggest it came from somewhere, without showing where. A round figure invites dismissal as an estimate. A figure like 2.94 billion invites credence. The precision is doing rhetorical work that the underlying sourcing does not support. Imagine receiving a receipt that states a total, but carries no line items, no quantities, no unit prices, no description of what was purchased. The total is printed clearly, but a receipt without line items is not a record of a transaction. It is a record of a number. The 2.94 billion figure, as it appears in the record, is that receipt. The symmetry of the silence is also worth reading carefully. A supplier that has won a landmark domestic contract has every incentive to confirm it. It signals manufacturing maturity, commercial viability, and investor confidence. A buyer that has committed to a domestic supply chain has some incentive to confirm it as well, as evidence of supply security. The record shows neither confirmation. The silence is not one-sided, which means it is either coordinated or the record is capturing something earlier in the commercial process than a finalized agreement, a qualification stage, a negotiation, a letter of intent that has not yet become a contract. The record does not say which, and if a confirmation were to appear in the record, it would need to specify the legal form of the agreement, the volume commitment in units or capacity, the price basis or pricing mechanism, the delivery schedule, and the party authorized to speak to each. A press release that restates the 2.94 billion figure without those elements would not be a confirmation. It would be a repetition. The record, as it stands, has only repetitions. The record does not show whether this non-disclosure is voluntary or required. Supply agreements in the semiconductor industry frequently contain confidentiality provisions that would prohibit either party from confirming specific terms. If such provisions exist here, the silence of both companies is not evidence that the arrangement is unreal. It is evidence that the arrangement, if real, is governed by terms the record has not captured. The record does not show the state of the qualification process with the cloud operators' infrastructure teams. Data center memory procurement typically proceeds through an extended qualification phase before a volume commitment is made. It is possible that the reported figure represents a target or a framework discussed during qualification, not a binding order, and the record does not distinguish between those stages. The record does not show what independent analysts who produced or repeated the figure were drawing on. Their sourcing is not visible in the public record, which means the figure may rest on supply chain channel checks, government procurement data, or conversations with unnamed parties that are real and credible, but not attributable. The record's silence is not the same as the underlying information being absent. It is the same as the underlying information not being on the record. The record may also be amended. Arrangements of this type, if they are in a qualification or negotiation stage, may produce a public confirmation at a later date. What the record does not settle is whether the figure is wrong or simply early, and that distinction matters more than the figure itself. The most consequential omission is this: neither company has put its name to the number. In the ordinary course of a commercial arrangement at this scale, at least one party, the supplier seeking to demonstrate market validation, the buyer required to disclose material commitments, would have reason to confirm it. The record shows that neither has. That is not an absence of information about the deal. It is information about the deal. Read closely. The record of this arrangement establishes the following: a number has achieved the circulation of a confirmed fact while remaining, at the level of primary attestation, a reported figure that neither party has placed its name on. The gap between those two things, the figure's authority and its sourcing, is the document. The silence of both companies is not peripheral to the story. A confirmation that names a legal form, a volume, a price basis, and a delivery schedule would close that gap. Until the record contains one, the 2.94 billion is a number the industry is reading as real and treating as provisional at the same time, and the record, honestly read, supports both readings simultaneously. The document everyone is citing is the document no one has actually filed. The next document worth reading closely is the one that would confirm or dissolve this figure: a regulatory disclosure, an earnings call answer, a qualification announcement naming a hyperscaler customer. When that document appears, what would its phrasing have to contain to be the thing the current record is missing? Keep that question in mind, and we will read it together when it arrives. If that kind of close reading is useful to you, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next document is already in the record. waiting to be found.